Good morning, everyone. I am so happy to see you again. I have several household projects that you and I can attempt to tackle today. I want to take a walk in the garden to look for winter damage. I have not looked at the garden carefully since mid-December, and today is March 3rd. Also, we are going to make a 1950s sweet cream cake for afternoon tea that we can enjoy in front of the fire. And we are going to freeze a dozen eggs. I've decided that I should have beaten eggs in the freezer at all times, just for emergency purposes. And I actually froze these eggs yesterday, so I want to take 2 of them out to thaw, and we can use them in the sweet cream cake. I like these silicone muffin things because look at this. The eggs come out very easily. And my sweet cream cake requires 2 beaten eggs, so I am going to thaw 2 of these discs. And I will set these in a bowl of cold water. Ideally, you would want frozen eggs to thaw overnight in the refrigerator, but I forgot to take these out last night. And I can put the remaining frozen eggs in a Ziploc freezer bag. These can go back to the freezer. I conducted tons of research on egg freezing methods, and I'm going to use the methods that I learned from reliable sources. 1 dozen USDA grade A large eggs is equal to about 2 1/4 cups of beaten eggs. And for the best freezing results, we need to beat the eggs very gently so as not to incorporate too much air. So I'm going to do 2 eggs at a time. Beat them gently. I also learned that in order to prevent the yolk from turning hard or rubbery or gelatinous during freezing, you really need to add either salt or sugar. It's 1 1/2 tablespoons of sugar for 1 cup of eggs. Or if you want to use the eggs for savory purposes, you would use a 1/2 teaspoon of salt per cup of beaten eggs. I can think of many reasons to have frozen, already beaten eggs on hand. First and foremost is emergency preparedness. Having frozen eggs on hand is useful in case of shortages or skyrocketing prices, or really any emergency situation. Shelf life is another benefit. Eggs can last much longer when they are frozen, thus reducing waste and ensuring that you always have eggs available. Of course, buying eggs when prices are lower and freezing them can save you money in the long run. Since my eggs will be used for sweet applications like cakes and muffins, I'm adding sugar to mine. I have never baked with previously frozen eggs before, so this will be a real learning experience. So my goal here is to simply combine the yolks and the whites without beating a lot of air into the mix. That's why I'm using a whisk as opposed to, say, an electric blender. In the comments below, let me know if you have any backyard hens. If you do, please know that I am jealous of you. Lizette has informed me that this is actually called a silicone muffin mold. and I really love it. It's very floppy, so you do have to put it on a baking tray. So now we can divide the eggs among the 12 muffin openings. I overfilled some of these openings, so I'm just removing some of the egg. And into the freezer these go. I want to clean up my workstation, and then we can head outside to have a look at the garden. I thought that Avery might like to join us on this garden walk. Instead, she seems content to remain on the sofa in the music room. Much of the garden is muddy now. This walk will require waterproof footwear. And now Goldie wants my attention. Surely we can take a moment to play with him. February was an extremely cold month here. Although much of the snow has melted, ice continues to linger on the brick walkways in the boxwood garden. Needless to say, I'm walking very carefully here. The boxwood seems to have suffered little or no winter damage at all. In the kitchen garden, strong winter winds knocked this cast iron urn from its pedestal. This is an easy fix. Winter wind has also managed to dismantle my wooden trellis. That's okay, because I now use cattle panels to trellis my tomatoes and sweet peas. Cattle panels are impervious to weather. And here's the garlic that you and I planted together in October. I hope that more of the bulbs will sprout as the soil thaws. We will not be opening the swimming pool anytime soon. It still resembles an ice skating rink. The leaves that we shredded in autumn are busy transforming themselves into leaf mold. I will use this amazing and free soil amendment in all of my garden beds when, at last, spring arrives. Now we are entering the woodland garden at the northern edge of the property. I can see that a large old tree has succumbed here to winter. Otherwise, damage here is minimal. The Hudson River tributary that runs behind the property is now filled with ducks. I can only imagine how cold their little webbed feet must be. We can return to the house via the serpentine garden. Here, the witch hazel is in full bloom. The flowers open in late February or early March, no matter the weather. The flowers are fragrant and a welcome sight after a harsh winter. Thank you for coming on that garden stroll with me. I'm so glad that the winter damage was minimal. Now let's head to the local farm store. I need to buy heavy cream for our 1950s sweet cream cake.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
We are home again. I'm going to put the eggs that we just purchased at the farm store into the refrigerator. And then, while rereading my recipe for this 1950s sweet cream cake, I see that I need 3 large eggs. So I need to thaw a 3rd egg. So I will simply add another frozen egg to the 2 that we thawed earlier. And while that 3rd egg is thawing, I will gather my ingredients for the cream cake. And I need to preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. I will bake the cake in this 9 by 13 baking dish, and I want to spray it with baking spray. Baking spray contains flour. If you don't have the spray, you can always butter and flour your baking dish. The reason I chose this sweet cream cake for the egg experiment is because I've made the cake many times in the past, and I know how it works out. So I will know if the previously frozen eggs performed well or if they failed. One of the ingredients I need is 2 1/4 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. So you need to sift first and then weigh or measure. Sifted flour is such a beautiful thing. It's like a cloud of wonderfulness. We might as well weigh this out. 1 cup. $275 grams of sifted flour. If you have a kitchen scale, you won't even have to measure the flour by volume. You can simply weigh out 275 grams of flour. Heavy cream substitutes for the butter that is usually in a cake recipe. I want you to see how luxurious this local heavy cream is. You can mix this cake either by hand or by machine. I'm going to use my machine to save time. Also using the machine because I am one of the laziest people you will ever meet. Whisk attachment. And again, you can whisk entirely by hand. And I need to beat the previously frozen eggs, or fresh eggs if that's what you are using, until they turn pale and thick. That's going to take probably 2 minutes by machine and about 5 minutes by hand. As you can see, the yolk did not turn the least bit gelatinous when the eggs were frozen. These eggs have definitely turned pale and thick, and I am happy to report that these previously frozen eggs are behaving just like regular fresh eggs. So now I need to beat in 1 1/3 cups of sugar. I'm going to use slightly less than that though, because I had already added sugar to the eggs when I froze them. And 1 1/3 cups of sugar is 267 grams. I'm using caster sugar here, but you can of course use regular granulated sugar. Turn this off, and then we can move on to the dry ingredients. To the already sifted flour, I'm adding 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then I simply have to whisk these dry ingredients together. And here is my 1 1/3 cups, or 315 mils of heavy whipping cream. And to the cream, I'm going to add 1 1/2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. I need to trade my whisk attachment for a paddle or mixing attachment. And here it is. And then in alternating additions, I will add the flour mixture and the cream mixture, beginning and ending with the flour. This cake smells just fantastic, and we haven't even baked it off yet. I want to give the bowl a good scraping down, just to make sure all of that flour is incorporated. And into the prepared cake pan goes the batter. This cake goes into the oven until it puffs, and a skewer inserted into the center comes out clean. That will take from 40 to 45 minutes. Going to put my ingredients away, clean up my workstation, wash my dishes, and then I will bring in some firewood. This cake turned out just as well as it always does, even with the previously frozen eggs. This cake recipe comes from a 1949 cookbook, and they recommend simply sprinkling cinnamon and sugar over the top. So that's what we are going to do. I just had a thought. I think a touch of cardamom would work in this cinnamon sugar mixture. Cardamom has a beautiful floral perfume. And just sprinkle the mixture over the top of the cake. We need to let this cake cool for a few minutes. I've already built a fire. We can go in to light it. Also, I want to brew some tea that we can enjoy with our cake. So what kind of tea shall we serve with this beautiful cake? Let's have a look. I think this orange spice tea will be a very good match for the cake. This is the tea that I buy at Tierra Farm, and I can put a link for free shipping from Tierra Farm in the description below if you are interested. And while the tea is steeping, we can cut into this still warm cake. I should probably mention that this cake freezes perfectly. Now look at the interior of the cake. It's fluffy and gorgeous. I can really tell that there is no difference whether you use previously frozen eggs or fresh eggs for this cake. Or probably for any cake for that matter. Into the parlor. I brought in the flowering crabapple branches that you and I snipped from the garden about 3 weeks ago. I think it was during a snowstorm. The branches looked like nothing more than dead twigs at the time, but look at them now. They have leafed out, and we will try to give you a close-up so that you can see the individual flower blossoms that are forming. So even though we are very much still in winter, we can have flowering branches in the house. A sip of tea. I love this orange spice tea. I never put milk in orange spice tea. Now let's dive into this cake. This cake is as delicious as it always is, even though we used previously frozen eggs. And I wanted to mention, in case I didn't mention it earlier, that if you are freezing just egg whites alone, you do not have to add sugar or salt to them. Egg whites freeze perfectly just as they are. I hope you feel inspired to try your hand at freezing eggs. As you've just seen, it's a very easy project to do. And who knows, maybe one day you will want to make a cake for afternoon tea. The only ingredient you are missing is a couple of eggs, and you will be glad to know that you will already have them in your very own freezer. Thank you so much for spending this relaxing morning and afternoon with me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your company. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to click the like button. In the next video, I'm hosting a dinner for my book club, and you and I will make that dinner together. I hope you will watch. And until then, please treat yourself very, very well. Please try this beautiful cake, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now, friends. So good.